Okay, it looks like we are live. What a nightmare, guys. Microphones don't work, cameras don't work, but we are finally live, so I'm going to hop right into this here and let everyone get acclimated. I just did 35 minutes with no mic, so I'll delete that one so no one has to go through watching Charlie Chaplin do a live report on something with no sound, so apologize for that. I'm a big fan of silent film, but I certainly don't want to be a broadcaster of silent film, so I'm just going to readjust here and make sure that we are currently live. I'm not seeing it on my screen. YouTube has been very, very wonky for me in the last couple of months. No mic, so I'll delete that one. So no. There we go. Okay, so we are live. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Rice Report. I'm Eric Rice. Thank you for being here today. Purpose of this show, I make no money doing this, so don't accuse me of that. I actually spend money to make this. The entire purpose of this show is to give a balanced approach, call the balls and strikes, tell you the information from what I'm seeing from a factual perspective, give you my opinion. It doesn't mean that that's the right opinion. You certainly can form your own. I encourage all of you to form your own opinion. I think that's the basis of critical thinking and freedom, is to be able to actually have that ability in your lifetime to be able to make your own decisions. So it looks like we have sound finally, so we'll hop right into it. So as we always do on this show, we take a very simple approach. We go through money, politics, and religion, and I look at it as kind of a triangle, where if I'm going to invest in something, it has to align with my politics and my faith. If I'm going to believe in something, it has to match with my money and my politics. If I'm going to vote for somebody, they have to match with my money and my faith. Looking at things from that pyramid, that triangle, is a great way to make sound decisions in your life. And it's always important that you have factual information. So let's hop right into it. I already wasted enough time on a silent film with you here. I apologize for that live stream with no sound. I have no idea why my mic cut out halfway through or right at the beginning, but it looks like I got it fixed now. So first things first, inflation. Let's look at that number. I think it's so important. I usually go through government spending. We all know that we have too much government spending, that Doge is actually out there doing a great job exposing some of these expenditures. We're still going to have congressional fights over a lot of them, but at least we know about the problems. It's a great first 31 days in office. I'm going to say some things tonight you may get upset about the things that we're seeing in this administration, but again, I'm just calling balls and strikes. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I live by the book of James. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you know not what it brings. Who are you to say you're going to go from this town to that and make this money and do business when you're just a mist here on earth, and you're here to live by God's will and serve God's purpose? So try to do that the best I can by giving factual information and real data that I think will help you. And right now we have sentiment is a great thing to look at. So of course we can look at things from the perspective of numbers are numbers, right? There are always numbers that are out there. I like to put sentiment data out there, what people are feeling, what people are looking at. And right now, the sentiment in the market is that inflation expectations are right where they were in 1993. People are expecting to see 3.5% inflation for the next 5 years. I anticipate it may be higher than that, because in order to get out of these difficult positions that we're in the government, we're going to have to print a lot of money. This market is drying up with liquidity. But it goes further than that. You can look at another stat I put out on Telegram today. I shared it on Twitter. A national average for a dozen eggs is $8.03. Does that mean that it's $8.03 where you live? Absolutely not. A national average is nothing more than a survey taken. They're not actually, we don't have the technology for them to be able to inspect every price at every grocery store. These are all got places that do surveys, like Rasmussen and some of these other places. They do surveys, and they survey people in every state, and they ask them what they're paying for a dozen eggs. Doesn't mean they're accurate. But right now, $8.03 is going to be severely overweighted by places like California, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Hawaii. And outside of Hawaii and Connecticut, these states have very high populations. So in places like California, they're paying $9 for a dozen eggs. That's going to bring up the average in a low populous state like, say, Idaho, that's paying $5.50 for a dozen eggs. But the national average is now around 8.3 based on a survey, national poll. And these are reflected in places like Walmart. Walmart is widely known as the cheapest place to get goods and services. I will remind you that Walmart launched as a USA-only company, a made-in-the-USA company, and nowhere near 30% of their products are made, processed, or packaged in the United States anymore. It's a very heavy Chinese widget company that's out there. Their stock just got beat up today, worse than they have since 2023. And that's a big sign. That's a big thing to look at. Another thing I'm going to do here is give you, I can tell you from my perspective, I'm not bullish on the stock market. I'm bullish on very few things. I've talked about them at almost every episode for the last couple of years, what I'm bullish on, where I have my money. It doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. You have your own life, your own world. I don't care what you do with your money. I just want you to be educated, and whatever you do and wherever you put your money, I want it to align with your politics and your faith. I think that's so important to do. So research everything and look at it. But I'm going to go through some things right now today that should give you your own idea as to where we're heading economically, because there's tremendous amounts of exuberance right now. I couldn't be happier. Kash Patel is now the head of the FBI. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show, because again, we'll go money, politics, and religion. And I think that this is such an important time for us to be able to buckle down. Just because Donald Trump is in office for 31 days does not mean that the financial woes that we've experienced, which I talked about on the last episode, Janet Yellen issued $6 trillion in U.S. T-bills in the last, year of her term in Treasury. We added $734 billion in the first quarter, which is basically October, November, December of last year. $738 billion added to the national debt under Yellen before Trump took office. They've been setting landmines for him, and those landmines are going to go off at some point in time, most of them. Some of them will be removed, they'll be reduced, the impact of the explosion won't be as bad. But overall, I think we're looking at a period right now of tremendous disarray, and it starts at the consumer level. So a lot of economists will come in and talk to you about the government spending, the government debt, treasuries, and I'm going to talk about that stuff. But let's talk about us. Let's talk about the normal people of this world. In the fourth quarter of 2024, the American public added $93 billion to their overall debt, $93 billion in 3 months. Household debt has now risen $3.9 trillion over the last 5 years. $3.9 trillion. We're almost $1 trillion a year added to household debt. How do you break that down? Well, credit card debt is now $1.21 trillion with an average of 22.9% in interest. That means that the American people who are suffering through inflation, corruption, tremendous amounts of debt, the American people are going to pay almost $300 billion this year, a little over $300 billion this year, just on interest for credit card debt alone. That is a huge suck from the wealth of this country, on top of inflation and taxes, which I'll get into in just a moment as well. Mortgage debt in this country is now at $12.6 trillion. Auto debt, $1.66 trillion. Those are the two things you need the most. You need to eat, you need shelter, and you need transportation. Those three things are costing us more than they ever have in the history of this country, and they are literally approaching $20 trillion combined with credit card debt and personal loans. This is how America is currently fighting debt. So people, you'll hear economists saying, oh, I know some of these guys who I argue with all the time, and they're saying, well, you're wrong because here's what the government numbers are. And I'm like, those government numbers don't mean anything. And then I hear the philosophers saying, well, this country was in a downfall since 1913 with the advent of the Federal Reserve. They're 100% correct. That was the initial downfall of this country, was the United States Federal Reserve. There's no way around that. We became debt slaves on a tax farm at that point in time. But let's not forget about the entire process. 1913, late 1913, we go from Federal Reserve to an IRS to a federal income tax less than 1%, which is now federally up to 37%, almost 40% of our income. It just scales up over time. We're seeing where that money is going. We're seeing where the spending is going. We're seeing where the printing is going with Doge. That's the first step to massive change. Massive change is on the way, guys. Whether it's blockchain technologies, cryptocurrencies, a new banking system, the onslaught of AI, which I'm going to get into in a moment. And I think it's important to maybe pause right here. So in March, I'm going to do a series of understanding crypto, what Bitcoin is, what altcoins are, what NFTs are, what ordinals are, runes, stablecoins, all these different things that are very confusing to the public. Education, basic education is missing right now. So a lot of people miss out on opportunities, and other people will take the wrong opportunities because they simply don't know what these things are. So in March, I'm going to do a series on the crypto space, what that means, what each one thing is, and I'm going to try to break it down at a fifth grade level for you. And then later in the month, I'm going to do a breakdown on AI and how to get used to AI, because AI is coming. I talk to pretty high level people all day, and I can tell you in the next 18 to 24 months, this country and this world is going to massively change due to AI. And if you're not prepared for it, you're certainly going to be on the wrong side of the fence when it comes to prosperity and wealth and things like that. So I'm going to run through that. But the bottom line is we have this sentiment right now about inflation. And the sentiment about inflation is correct. I anticipate that Trump will have to print between $15 and $20 trillion in the next 4 years to correct the wrongs of this country. We've been printing it and giving it away, but if we print it and keep it in the country, not only will we create liquidity and prosperity, we will also dilute the debt that we already have if we make the right investment decisions, which is why we're starting to see Bitcoin strategic reserve bills, sovereign wealth funds. These are ways for the country to be able to prosper on the things that we create to be able to pay off our debt. So keep that in mind. But until then, we're going to have inflation. The world of economists is kind of divided in three parts. One, everything's fine. I don't agree with that. The other one is we're heading into hyperinflation. The other one is we're heading into deflation. I think both of those two are correct. I'm more overweighted that we'll have short-term hyperinflation followed by a deflationary period when tariffs kick in and taxes are reduced. I think that's an inevitable logical deduction. If what we're proposing right now from the government actually comes true, which we don't really know yet. But how are Americans getting through this high inflationary period? Well, we're fighting inflation with debt. People forget 1913. You have the Federal Reserve, the IRS. Then you go into the 70s, 1971, we go off the gold standard. By the way, in 1933, they confiscated our gold and they sent it to Fort Knox. That's a part of the story that we'll talk about tonight as well. But in the 70s, three things happened. We went off the gold standard, we went onto a fiat standard, and the whole world followed. Everyone's on a fiat standard. Fiat currency is probably not going anywhere. Nation state money is not going anywhere. So anyone in crypto or Bitcoin telling you that crypto or Bitcoin will be the new world reserve currency is absolutely off their rocker. The US dollar is not going anywhere in the next 4 years. Trump has made that abundantly clear. And for national security purposes, I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think that any of these technologies are ready for large-scale global implementation yet. So I think we're pretty safe on that front. But the thing that happened in the 70s, we had three things. Gold standard, the invention of the 401k plan, which, many people, that's their investment vehicle. They invest in their home and they put money away in a 401k, and there's nothing wrong with that. From my opinion, as kind of a revisionist I'm an Austrian economist. I believe in Austrian economics, where the government has very little power over money. We live in a Keynesian economics model where the government controls pretty much everything. If you don't know the difference between Keynesian and Austrian, you certainly need to learn. I believe that we are going from a very long Keynesian era into an Austrian era, where people have the power over money. Government shouldn't control money. People should control what they receive and what they use to buy and sell goods. But I think that we're in this shift right now. The biggest thing that happened was this 401k plan. So yes, you don't have to pay taxes on that money today while taxes are low. Give you an example. If you had a 401k plan in 1913, taxes were like 0.5% federally. Now they're 37%. So yes, I could have saved 0.5% on that allotment to my 401k and only invested in publicly traded stocks and bonds. That's all I can invest. I can't invest in real estate. I can't invest in Bitcoin. I can't do any of that stuff. But I can invest in stocks and bonds, which is great. And they can grow and I can buy and sell them and I don't pay capital gains taxes. However, that big amount of money that I'm going to need to retire on, I'm then going to have to pay it. Say I lived from 1913 to today, right? I would have avoided paying 0.5% in taxes to pay 37% in taxes when I need the money. This is a way of harvesting capital where you have control over markets. If you control, and believe me, all markets are manipulated, whether you want to buy into that theory or not. It's absolutely true. So I'm going to put you into this controlled environment, save you on taxes when they're cheap, and charge you on taxes when you're retired and aren't earning anymore. You're just drawing down on your income. So that was invented. The other thing that came on that most people don't talk about in the 1970s was personal debt, credit cards. They were actually not called credit cards. I forgot what they were called. They had a silly name for them when they first came out. But credit cards became a thing in the 70s. Inflation was raging in the 70s and 80s. People needed a way to pay their bills, so they offered debt as a solution. Instead of fixing the problem of inflation, which they control, the Federal Reserve completely controls inflation. Instead of fixing it, they invented a new way for bankers to make money, lending you capital and charging you interest. We are now paying $300 billion to bankers for borrowing money we need for common things, eggs, very expensive eggs, poultry, whatever it may be. People forget about that era. Credit card debt is a huge problem in this country. Debt is a problem in this country, and not just from a government perspective, from all of our perspectives in our own homes. And the solution to uncovering fraud is to give everyone $5,000, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Are reparations needed? In my personal opinion, take the $5,000, pay off the debt, get rid of the Federal Reserve, and eliminate the IRS, and I'm a happy camper. And believe me, I'm owed way more than $5,000, and there's a lot of people like me who don't want the money. Give it to people who need it, pay off the debt, get rid of taxes, create tariffs, and you have prosperity for generations to come. So I hope that that happens. But the debt problem in this country, from a consumer perspective, people like you and me, it's so bad right now. Right now, the missed payments, 90-day tardy missed payments on debt is up 11.4%. That's the highest rate in 13 years. It's only comparable in periods of 2007 to 2009 and 2001. That is the dot-com bubble, followed by the Great Financial Crisis, which, by the way, should have and could have been much worse than it was if it wasn't for the government's printing money and bailing out banks, which we are probably going to see ourselves in that situation in the next 2 years, either way. But this is a huge problem. So now people have inflation. Things cost too much. Their wages aren't rising fast enough to compete. They're using debt to fight inflation. And now lots of people are losing their jobs. It's not just the government. I think that right now there's 650,000 government workers who have accepted a buyout. But it's not just happening in the government sector. We are going to go through a wave of AI that you have never imagined. It's going to come on so fast. It's going to cost people jobs, and it's going to make trillionaires in the process. It is going to create another separation of upper and lower class. But somewhere in the middle class will absolutely thrive if they can adapt that, which is why in March, I'm going to be doing a segment on the uses of AI, how to use it, some basic training. I'm going to bring on some guests for interviews to give you hints on how to use this stuff to secure your own future. But to give you an example, in the private sector, UnitedHealth, largest healthcare provider in this country, they just had an earnings announcement this week, and they had better than expected earnings. So they came out to the public and said, hey, we actually profited more than we anticipated with our projections last quarter. We beat our numbers. Everything is great. 2 hours later, they issued a statement that they're going to buy out 30,000 workers. 30,000 workers are going to lose their job. Why? Pretty simple. They're going to an efficiency model, and they're using AI. Administrators, processors, these types of jobs, accounting, things that are moving things from one spreadsheet to another. This is being replaced with AI. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no complaining to do about it. All you can do is learn the system and use it to your advantage. 30,000 after better than expected earnings. The average adult right now in America who's out of a job, their sentiment has dropped 50% on their job prospects in the next 3 months. So to make that simple, you have all the people right now who don't have a job. I have plenty of friends who don't have jobs. They are not optimistic that they'll get a job anywhere near what they were making before or what they were doing before in the next 3 months. That sentiment is up 50% or down 50%, whichever way you want to look at it. And now we have a flood of government workers. And if you're a government worker watching this and this offends you, sorry. We have government bureaucrats who cannot be fired, who are finally being bought out and eventually will be fired, who are going to drag the private sector down because they haven't had to do hard work in 20 years. This is a big problem that many people, they're caught up in the exuberance of, they're going to get rid of taxes. That's a long road. Donald Trump cannot get rid of the federal income tax. That has to be approved by Congress. That will take time. I believe it'll happen. To get rid of the Federal Reserve, same thing. President can't just sign an EO and get rid of the Federal Reserve. These things have to go through Congress. The process has started. That's the best part. Like, it started. We're getting close to that being somewhat of a reality. And that's a beautiful thing, a great thing. Couldn't ask for a better start, so I'm not complaining there. But there's certainly reality to be injected in here. So big layoffs, big problems out there. I will get into some of the government debt in just a moment. But the number 49 you need to remember. The U.S. markets right now, our global market cap, so our publicly traded companies, it's primarily public companies. The market cap of U.S. companies is now 40% of the global market. I've been telling you this for a long time. We're in a top-heavy market, and eventually gravity catches up. I don't know when that'll be. I don't know how hard it'll fall. I'm not a black swanist. Dollar's going away, and it's black swan, and we're going to be, have to get our guns and store food. I think it's a great idea to have guns. I think it's a great idea to store food. I don't think that that's the message I'm trying to deliver to you. I don't know that we'll be there at that point, but it is certainly inevitable that we will see a major market correction at some point in time, because right now 49% of the world's global market cap is retained by U.S. companies. This is a huge number. In fact, it's so huge, it's $60 trillion. That's 49% of global markets controlled by U.S. companies. The price of lumber is as high as it's been since 2022. 2022, we saw a big slowdown in building, new builds, construction, and real estate. I anticipate that happening right now. In fact, the real estate market is very top heavy as well. The houses that are moving, that are making the numbers in real estate look realistic or somewhat palpable,
are high end. So $1 million homes throughout the country, they're moving pretty quickly. Your average $250,000, $300,000 house, it's about a 2-month longer sales cycle for that. And those are the ones where you add a lot of construction and make them nice or rehab them. Lumber is expensive, just no way around that. That's going to cause a big impact somewhere. Institutional investors, these are insiders. These are hedge funds, mutual funds, money managers. They are selling off right now at the highest rate seen in a couple of years, since 2021. So in 2021, they all sold off. 2022 was one of the roughest years in American economics. So I anticipate that happening again. That charge is being led today by Jamie Dimon, who may be the biggest liar that has ever lived. He runs JP Morgan Chase. That is a lying organization that has been laundering money for Jeffrey Epstein and all of his buddies for all these years. Everything Jamie Dimon has told you is pretty much wrong after years of research. But Jamie Dimon, he's doing fine. You're struggling, but Jamie Dimon just cashed out $250 million of his own stock today. That happened today. When you start seeing these types of things, you start to get inclinations. You start to see what could happen. I'm not Ricestradamus. I'm just Eric Rice, guy in a hoodie in a spare bedroom talking to you. But I look at things from a statistical momentum perspective. Then you have $900 billion, $937 billion was wiped out of the stock market today for multiple reasons. I won't get too deep into them. Big loss day. That'll rebound, I'm sure. These institutional investors get out, wait for things to drop, buy back in and drive it back up. This could be led by government officials. We don't know. It's just institutional buyers and sellers that we're seeing right now. And then we get into the conversation about Fort Knox and gold. This is a great conversation. I've been a gold bug for many years. I believe that the reason I got into it is because I don't want to lose money. Like that's always been kind of the big part of gold. Gold has always been a steady 6, 7, 8% return. Gold has doubled in the last 18 months. I was telling people to buy gold at about 1,500. We're now at almost 3,000. And now the big conversation is coming about for something that gold bugs have said for 30 years, which is 100% true, that there's about 300 sales contracts for every ounce of gold. So 300 to 1 ratio. There's just far more people who should own gold that don't have it in their pocket, that have a receipt that says, I own this, that they can trade on the open market. And a lot of people are starting to realize this because we are approaching a tariff/trade war. I know that the ramifications have been short and entertaining, to be honest with you, very entertaining, to watch Trump say, I'm going to tariff you tomorrow unless you do this. And then they back down and they do it. Canada, Mexico, and China have pending reverse tariffs against us. They are preparing for something. It may or may not happen, just to be honest with you. I don't know what will come tomorrow, but they are preparing and the world is preparing for it. So when you get into this era of the sovereign individual, which is a book I highly recommend, I'll give you book recommendations every show. I highly recommend reading The Sovereign Individual and The Road to Serfdom by F.A. Hayek. F.A. Hayek is one of the most legendary Austrian economists that has ever walked the planet. Every college should have been teaching him, but Austrian economics goes against the Keynesian economic model we live in. I would highly advise those. One of the things that we're starting to see is this sovereign individual movement. And if you've read the book or follow it at all, he specifically talks about a change in the nation state model. That change in the nation state model would lead to different areas of the world that would be great havens for sovereign individuals, people who have access to their capital and liquidity, which is why crypto and Bitcoin is a big thing. It's portable. You can take it anywhere with you, spend it any way you like. And you can really just kind of pack up and leave. So you're seeing places like Dubai and El Salvador that are building these havens for people to live free, low taxes, high abundance. And then you're seeing big nation states like America, who's literally been stealing from us from the moment we were born, getting into this protectionism era, trying to protect the nation state by keeping those innovative, wealthy people here who create great things. We want them to stay in America. That's what Trump is doing. He is actually living through the model of this book as we speak. And that's where he specifically talks about, the authors talk about an era where taxes will be reduced and tariffs will be imposed to keep people within that country innovating. So these tariff wars that we're seeing, people are preparing for them, and gold is always a part of these things. You can look through all of history. When you have a tariff or a trade war that occurs, sanctions become the way that you enforce them. Gold is the easiest way around sanctions previous to the Bitcoin era. So a lot of places are using Bitcoin to buy and sell natural resources throughout the world, but gold is always that tradition. They're difficult to transport, very heavy to carry. I think in the end, we're going to see a transition in the gold market. I've talked about it before. I'll do a gold episode next week with all the uses of gold that go beyond money. I mean, God paved the streets with it. You walk on the streets with your dirty feet. Gold has many purposes, as do all the precious metals. But for right now, they're money. They're literally base layer money. And 900 billion coming out of the stock market today is followed by 2,000 tons of gold that has moved from overseas into the United States. With all the talk from RFK, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Rand Paul, all now, we actually have an official docket in Congress from Rand Paul to inspect Fort Knox. This hasn't been done since 1974. Do we have the gold there or don't we? That's the topic. Now, of course, when these things come about, anything that happens in that market will be attributed to whatever belief, whether you believe we have the gold, more gold than we claim to have, or we have no gold at all and it was stolen. We don't know that. We won't know that. We do have people wanting to inspect Fort Knox for the first time in U.S. history, which is about the greatest news you can ever get because we're going to get truth. We're going to find out what it is. So most people think that this 2,000 tons of gold that has moved in the United States is solely to restock Fort Knox. That may be true. There may be some truth to that. But at the end of the day, this is people who are preparing for difficult times ahead, who no longer want the Bank of England or the COMEX or anyone else to hold their gold. They want to hold it themselves. They may need it. They may want to use it. And that's the way gold works. You buy gold. Example I gave when my mic wasn't working is I buy $1 million in gold, which I can't. But if I did, I would buy $1 million of gold. I would hold it at a repository and it would have a sticker on my $1 million of gold that said, "This is owned by Eric." And then I would say, you know what, I want to sell it. And a guy named Bill wants to buy it. So they take the sticker off that says Eric and they put another sticker on it that says Bill, but that gold stays in that same repository. There are 12 times the amount of private repositories for gold in the world than there are ones that we know about. There's a very strong possibility that there may be more gold in this world than we're told. Every other commodity is like that, whether it's wheat, corn, soy. The way commodities have always worked is they've manufactured scarcity so that those proprietors can make more profit. That's the way commodities have always worked. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's the truth. Diamonds, gold, food, oil, gas. There's big storages somewhere people don't know about, and they're just waiting to sell it at the right time for the right price. And I think gold we're going to find out it's kind of the same. So we may open the doors in Fort Knox and we may find nothing. We may find tungsten dipped in gold. We may find that there are 5 times the amount of gold in Fort Knox than we anticipated. And I actually think that all 3 of those are possible and probable. And I don't want to make a judgment on it because we don't know. But there have been 2,000 tons of gold that have moved from overseas into the United States. There is now the highest amount of gold moved in 13 years per the Swiss bankers, which know everything about this stuff. But I will say this. There's one topic I want to talk about with gold. Scott Bessent, our new head of Treasury that Trump appointed, who's been confirmed, Scott Bessent basically said that revaluing gold was not in his playbook. So that may happen, that may not. But let's talk about what revaluing gold means. It's very confusing to the world. I hear people all the time, well, Trump will revalue gold to $30,000 an ounce. And then my gold at my house is worth $30,000 an ounce. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. The only gold that they would have control to revalue is the gold on the books in the U.S. Treasury, which is held at the New York Federal Reserve. So right now it's valued at $42 an ounce. So if Trump were to say, let's move the price to spot, right, to $29.50, what that would do is it would open up about $750 to $1 trillion, $750 billion to $1 trillion in buying power. So we could either sell the gold to the Treasury and eliminate or reduce the debt, or we could use that for loans from the Federal Reserve to be able to go buy more things. That's really what it does. If Trump were to revalue gold at $100,000 an ounce, which he actually could do, he would revalue the gold held by the Federal Reserve only. Now, of course, that would spread into the spot market and people would start saying, well, gold should be worth more. But I can tell you right now, I know a lot of gold bugs. I know a lot of guys who are specialists in their areas. I can tell you there's not a single person on planet Earth that would pay $100,000 an ounce for gold or $30,000 an ounce for gold. So they may front run it. They may be moving their gold here, anticipating a revaluation. But again, the revaluation is only for the U.S. Treasury. It's not going to impact your spot price. That will still be controlled by the market. Where you will see a jump in spot price of the market is when all of this gold is called out of the repositories and there's still hundreds, if not thousands of people waiting on their gold. The problem is not the revaluation of gold at the Treasury. That's just a debt instrument to allow us to manage our debt more efficiently. The real problem that we have or the real advantage or opportunity that we have in this sentiment or this area is that the spot price would be affected when people realize that the places we've trusted, trust is the issue. We have to trust the government, we have to trust the bank, we have to trust the repository, trust the COMEX, trust all these people to do the right thing, and they have never done the right thing. So the real shift in gold will be when these repositories like the COMEX don't have enough gold to cover their paper debt. and revaluing gold in the Treasury is probably a good Kickstarter to that. But just to be real with you, there's a lot of people on the internet that say, if Trump will buy gold because Trump will revalue it to $30,000, and then you have $30,000 per ounce. It's just simply not the way it works. The market will determine that, and the shortage in the market for the gold that's owed, that will determine that, and that could lead to it. So just to get that out there, I want to provide as much education as I possibly can. So we have these problems. We have an overweighted market. We have insider selling. We have high volume of insiders like Jamie Dimon dumping in the market. We have the highest rush of retail, normal people putting money into the stock market we've ever seen. The market is not only overweighted in value and market cap globally and domestically, we also have the problem that American households are way overweight in the equity market. So now we're recalling all this gold that will provide gold at some of the brokers for you to buy. Some people are starting to see the writing on the wall, and the other ones are just completely ignoring it and thinking we're in a normal era. I just went through debt and jobs. I think that's so important to look at. That is the largest indicator of an economy, is how much are people making, how much do they owe, and how easy is it to get a job. Those prospects do not look good. Becent, I think, is going to be a godsend to us in many different ways, because I believe that in the next 4 years, they will eliminate the IRS, and that they will eliminate the Federal Reserve, and the Treasury will actually be who manages our money, which is the way a nation should have always run. But we're going to have to go through months, if not years, of arguing in Congress and passing bills, and no one's going to agree on this stuff. So it's not going to happen overnight. We still have a lot of stuff to prepare for. In the midst of this, we have government layoffs flooding the market with unskilled workers, right? Like bureaucrats who literally can't be fired will now go into the private sector where it's cutthroat. People get fired and have a difficult time finding jobs all the time. That's going to happen. The Chinese market becomes more confusing. The Chinese market, the amount of money printing skyrocketed in the last couple of days, and it actually, what China is now telling us is that, we're not printing money. We're just changing the way that we report it. If you believe that, I have a beachfront property in Oklahoma to sell to you. Nothing can be trusted out of China. One thing we know for sure is that the dollar has fallen 2 points in the last week. It went from 108 to 106. And the European Central Bank had its largest loss in 25 years. So central banks are losing money. The reverse repo market, I'll explain this as simply as I can. The reverse repo market allows banks buy U.S. treasuries. The U.S. then pays them interest. They use that interest to make loans and provide liquidity for depositors. When things get difficult, they take their treasury, they go to the reverse repo market, which is the New York Federal Reserve. They go to them and say, well, here's all my here's $10 million in treasuries. And then the reverse repo market goes, here's 10 million in cash. Come back and buy them back from us at a 2% premium. That's all it is. That market is down 80%. Liquidity is drying up in this country. When liquidity dries up, other foreign banks start printing money and central banks start losing money. Money printing is on the way. Money printing begets hyperinflation. So again, the three views, everything's fine. Don't agree with that. Hyperinflation, deflation are coming. I think it's a mix of both. I think we're going to see a hyperinflationary period for a time. And then I think we're going to see deflationary periods after tariffs have been implemented and taxes have been dropped, severely dropped or eliminated. Then you will go into a deflationary golden age in America. And that's just strictly speaking from an economist point of view and the way it would work mathematically. So some other big news today. Bybit, an exchange, overseas exchange, a lot of stuff to the story. I'll give you the basics. There were hackers that are theoretically or supposedly out of North Korea. I don't know if I buy into that yet, although the wallet tracing does show North Korea. They hacked into Bybit, and through smart contracts and the use of a Ledger cold wallet, which if you have a Ledger, you should understand that Ledger has a backdoor and you sign a permission basically allowing people access to your cold storage. Go buy Bitcoin, go to a Bitcoin only, like a Trezor Bitcoin only, or a Jade or some of these other devices. Store your crypto off of the exchanges, put your keys in cold storage. They did sign off on a multi-sig Ledger transaction through a smart contract that was manipulated. That's what I love about Bitcoin. It's just a money system. It's an immutable blockchain. It's perfect, and it requires 29 gigawatts of power to run. That's the equivalent of the nation of Poland or Spain. Most secure you can get. Yes, it doesn't do dolphin backflips in the ocean, and doesn't have meme coins, doesn't have smart contracts. It just produces sound money. And that will be used on all these other ledgers. They are already tokenizing and getting ready to use that. But $1.4 billion in Ethereum was stolen from Bybit, hacked. Will they find this? I don't know. But this opens up the door for conversations about true decentralization versus fake decentralization. Ethereum actually has the ability to basically hard fork or soft fork from their existing chain, go into a new one, and basically eliminate the hack. If that happens with the approval of the Ethereum Foundation, they are not decentralized. In my opinion, in the view of many people, there is only one decentralized blockchain, truly decentralized. But this is a big problem. It caused a big riff, a 3.5% drop in the crypto markets. These are things that will ripple through. And this actually comes on the day that they started paying back FTX investors. So the day FTX investors get paid back, now we see another FTX happening with Bybit with a $1.4 billion heist of Ethereum. That's the largest crypto heist in the history of the world. And yet the markets were fairly resilient. So good things there. One thing, I'm a Bitcoin only guy. I like some of the other projects. I'm actually sitting on a blockchain panel tomorrow. I like them. I'll express my views on those things at that panel tomorrow, and I'll certainly express them if you ask me, but I don't have much time because this is my second recording tonight. I think it's important to note that I continue to hear online that Bitcoin is going to zero and it's being evaporated and it's corrupt. And now Jack Dorsey invented it. He's like the 4,000th person that's invented it. And everyone has a creative story of telling you this. If you need a founder, you need an idol. I don't need an idol. I need physics. Physics is what drives Bitcoin. It actually doesn't matter who invented it. Whoever invented it broke the key and handed it off to a decentralized network. I was just in Austin, Texas last night at a Bitcoin developer meeting. There's 68 people there who are working on the Bitcoin code for $0 because they believe in it and they want to secure their own wealth. That's what decentralization looks like. There were 48 other events like that around the world. So I can anticipate 2,000 developers working for free on a project that they love. They're contributing to that every day. There are millions of people contributing to it. It is truly a militia of money and not a corporation that is executing a plan. But it's important to note, I try to get this out here. I'm not trying to beat you over the head. Of all the confirmed Trump appointees, the following and unconfirmed partners as well. So Elon Musk owns, I heard the other day, Elon Musk hates Bitcoin. He owns $900 million. Yeah, $900 million of Bitcoin through Tesla. Kash Patel owns Bitcoin. Sean Duffy owns $1.1 million in Bitcoin. Howard Lutnick owns hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin. Pete Hegseth owns Bitcoin. RFK has 5 million in Bitcoin. Tulsi Gabbard has Bitcoin. Scott Bessent has Bitcoin. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Kratsios, which is the head of technology and innovation. He owns about $250,000 in Bitcoin. I'm really just kind of tired of hearing that the Bitcoin's going to zero theory, because I've never heard one that makes sense. I would look into it, do your homework, do your research, research the system and not people's opinion. Read books. I think Bitcoin is a major part of our economy moving forward, and it's not just me. The crypto market, I think, is being exposed in the last 30 days. We have seen the president of the United States before he became president. So Trump and Melania launched meme coins that lost people billions of dollars. I'm going to call this section balls and strikes. So I don't mind that somebody who's not president launches a meme coin. I don't mind that. What I do mind is that 10% of the public owns it and 80% is owned by Trump and his organizations. If you find tokenomics like that, where 80% of the actual product is owned by insiders, that means it's controlled by insiders, and it's probably not going to work out well in the long run for you. But Trump and Melania both launched meme coins. People lost a lot of money. The people who made money were the insiders. One of Trump's insiders, a 27-year-old kid, posted, "Oh, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe I just made $20 million on Trump's meme coin." 3 hours later, about $2.5 billion was lost. So everybody else who came into the deal, this is what's called a pump and dump. He owned it. Market pumped it up. He dumped it on everyone, and the people who came in after him lost. Dave Portnoy did the same thing twice, and the president of Argentina, Milei, who a lot of Bitcoiners think is great. I think he's a phony, personally. I think he's good on the Doge side of his government, but when you have people doing this, I can only assume that this is either massive grift and greed by political pundits throughout the world and world leaders, or I think it's a way of exposing how a market can be unfair and should be highly regulated in certain areas. So you can look at it from that. Calling balls and strikes. I think it's a great thing we got rid of the penny. It cost 3 cents to make a penny. Like, that's just pretty much math. The balls and strikes here are that when you remove the penny, that's one step closer to a cashless society. So you have to look at it from that perspective. Unemployment being on the rise and the discussion of $5,000 distributions to Americans is another way of looking at UBI, Universal Basic Income. I'm not trying to be a black pillar. I just call balls and strikes. I love Trump and I love Elon and what they're doing. But there's a bigger plan in play, always has been, and I don't know if they have to toe the line on it and offer it in a different way. Where we have a lot of discussion happening about a stablecoin bill. I think stablecoins are really the focus of the government, nothing else. The stablecoins, what a stablecoin does. I'll give you another myth I hear all the time. Tether pumps Bitcoin. Tether buys Bitcoin with interest they get from U.S. Treasuries. Howard Lutnick, head of Cantor Fitzgerald, is the person who has audited them and holds their treasuries. So you'll hear a lot of fluff about Tether out there. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean what I'm saying is either. They've never been audited. So it's not like I'm sitting here advocating for them. I actually happen to think Paulo is a true freedom fighter because he won't bend a knee to the MiCA regulations in Europe that want stablecoins to hold 60% of their backing for their stablecoin in banks, earning 0%. So you couldn't make any money. You're just backing something. But I think stablecoins will be an introduction of tokenized dollars. Tokenization is a big topic, and I'm going to cover that next week. But when you create a stablecoin, you said we're going to do the stablecoin bill, but we're never going to have a CBDC. So we hear never have a CBDC, and that's supposed to be a great thing, and I cheer for that because that's a central bank digital currency, a private corporation. What a stablecoin is going to be is a digital asset that maintains a $1 value, and it will be backed by U.S. Treasuries. Tether is the 19th largest buyer of U.S. Treasuries. That's confirmed. They are the 19th largest buyer of U.S. Treasuries in the world, also the largest stablecoin in the world. So they buy Treasuries, they back it. They're fully centralized products, can be completely programmable, completely controllable. We have no idea what a stablecoin is in the back end. And I would assume that compliant and regulated stablecoins will have programmability to be able to restrict your buying geographically or your buying from what you can and cannot buy. So we won't have a CBDC, but we will have a digital dollar, and that'll be a United States Treasury DC, digital currency. So again, these things that we get, I'm looking at them from a balls and strikes perspective. So no CBDC, that's great. We are going to have a digital dollar backed by the U.S. Treasury, potentially backed by, I continually hear, digital tokens backed by gold. Has the same problem as gold-backed currency. Is the gold real? How much do you have? How does it move when I spend it? A gold-backed currency or a gold-backed token is a very difficult thing to audit, to assay, and to regulate. So a lot of big changes happening, but I'll call balls and strikes on that. Unemployment on the rise and a $5,000 buyout sounds a lot like universal basic income to me. And a stablecoin bill with no CBDC sounds like a CBDC with a different name to me. So I will always be on point with that. The UK today forced Apple to reduce or eliminate their security controls for iCloud privacy. I don't know how to express this any other way, but Europe is done. Like Europe is completely done. We are the last bastion of freedom, and I hope that we continue to fight for it. But Europe is done. They no longer even have privacy on their Apple iCloud accounts. The governments can go into their system at any time, and they already have digital IDs in some of these countries. So some of the stuff that we're cheering that, that'll never happen. Well, politicians tell us something will never happen. Never. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust people that I know in my personal life. I'm going to trust no one else. I don't care what their last name is or how great they appear to be. I'm going to call balls and strikes the whole time. And we are definitely heading towards an era where the obfuscation of the truth and the change of terminologies will make you feel comfortable while the same system is being implemented in a different, kinder way. We are going from dark rulership to light rulership, but we are still living in rulership. We have done, all we've done is switch out which billionaires run this country, period. I love Trump. I love Elon. I love what they're doing. I'm as happy as an American can be right now. But the fact of the matter is we are still ruled by billionaires. They're just different billionaires than we had before, which is a good thing. Like the billionaires we had ruling us before were awful. But a lot of these billionaires that ruled us before are bleeding into the administration. Bill Gates just met with Donald Trump, or he's meeting with Donald Trump to talk to him about vaccines. Second day in office, Donald Trump introduced Larry Ellison and Sam Altman for the heads of AI. These are horrible decisions. Then you have the meme coin stuff happening in the middle of it. And now you have different things that are happening right now, which will be construed by one side of the political sphere as being bad, that are actually good if power is released. But we have a lot of stuff to think about here. Another thing, you can look at Apple, right? Apple was going to build their next production facility in Mexico. They met with Trump. Now they're building it in America. There's a lot of power behind strength, and I believe in Trump. I won't trust any of them, but I believe in Trump that he's going to do the right things for us with all my heart. But there's no way one man rules the world. There's still this massive conglomerate of people that many I believe have been removed from power behind the scenes, but there's still an agenda rolled out by powerful people who've controlled the world forever. And there's probably good and bad in it that we perceive in the opposite direction. But again, balls and strikes. That's all I'm trying to do. One thing Trump has done today, he took control or power over all three-letter agencies in this country. That is, in my opinion, a good thing, but I can certainly see how someone would say that that's a bad thing. So you're going to hear that debate in the public that Trump's a dictator, he's taking control of things. Well, one thing I can tell you in 31 days, he will take control of things, fire a bunch of people who don't need to be there, and hopefully hand power back or eliminate the agency altogether. You got to remember the Chevron deference case basically makes these three-letter agencies pretty much irrelevant in the country. So I think it's a good thing what Trump is doing. He took power over all those agencies, including the United States Post Office, which has been nothing more than a government suck for a terrible for-profit organization. Remember, they are a for-profit organization now that is funded by the government. So I don't know very many, to be honest with you, SpaceX is another one. SpaceX, Tesla, these are private for-profit companies that are funded by the government, funded by DARPA and some other organizations. Trump actually, the best thing I saw today, aside from Kash Patel being officially confirmed as the head of the FBI, was Trump really going after the governor of Maine for still allowing men who claim to be women in women's sports. If you haven't seen that clip online, I highly advise you. It's on my Twitter and Telegram. Very entertaining to watch Trump do what he does, just kind of throwing it right in people's faces. But he also removed protection status from Haitians in this country. I don't try to get too specific on things, but I can tell you that a high percentage of crime committed in southern Florida in particular is committed by Haitian illegals who have been a protected class that can't be deported. So now they can be deported back to Haiti. And if you don't know how the political sphere actually works, here's how it works. I'm rich and I'm powerful and I want to make money and I want to mess up America. I'm going to go to Haiti. I'm going to cause a civil war. I'm going to force a bunch of Haitians to come to Miami. I'm going to call them a protected status. I'm going to let them commit crime. And then ultimately, I'm going to defund the police and take over your entire town. That's how tyranny works. We're watching it in the Middle East. We're watching it in Ukraine, in Afghanistan. They cause a war. All the refugees come here. Then we have huge economic problems and civil unrest. And eventually new rules are put in place to get rid of the civil unrest while they take over all of our power. That's just simply how the world works. I'm not the one who invented it, but I'm certainly the one who will disguise it. Trump also introduced the CEO of Pfizer at Mar-a-Lago. I think it was at Mar-a-Lago or at a press conference today, and the entire audience booed. I think right now, Trump, because I've watched this stuff for so long, I think Trump is really showcasing bad ideas. I think he's showcasing bad actors. I think he's showcasing bad ideas, bad companies. Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, the list can go on. Whoever he's showcasing right now, I think he's putting it out there so the American people can go, I don't want Larry Ellison running AI. I don't want Sam Altman running AI. I don't want the head of Pfizer getting praise at your press conference, and many others. So there's been many others in there. And pretty much the first 30 days, in my opinion, has been kind of a showcase of, well, I'm going to meet with Bill Gates. You guys like Bill Gates? No, we hate Bill Gates. Okay, cool. 6 months from now, we'll start chopping the feet off Bill Gates and let him run with Stubbs. I think that's what we're going through. That's the process. Kash Patel. Fantastic. Got a chance to meet Kash Patel about a year and a half ago. Very straightforward, very, very direct person, which we need in law enforcement. And he was confirmed today, and within hours, he basically reported hundreds. Somebody had told me near 1,000 FBI agents. You got to remember, he was on, I think, Sean Ryan's podcast. And he said, when I'm the head of the FBI, the first thing I'm going to do is turn the Hoover building into the Deep State Museum and get about 1,000 FBI or 7,000 people in the FBI that work in a building that actually don't fight crime. They just shuffle paper. So he took hundreds, if not close to 1,000, and basically reassigned them to the field to start finding criminals, to start arresting murderers and rapists and drug dealers and illegals. This is a great kickstart. I've been excited for Kash Patel's appointment. And by the way, so many people on Telegram, especially, and Twitter, once it finally got free again somewhat. I will remind you that Twitter has banned more accounts since Elon took it over than they did with Dorsey. Dorsey wasn't in charge, but the other CEO, when they banned Trump, they've actually banned more accounts since he's been there. That's just balls and strikes. But Kash Patel doing this right now, I've been so excited to see him confirmed because I think he's going to clean house from the top level. I did a great interview with an ex-military FBI person a few weeks ago. Name evades me. Sorry if you're watching this, man. You were an awesome interview. But I'm doing my second term here. The first one, my mic didn't work. I'm trying to remember where I was. Pam Bondi. I'm not a fan of Pan Bondi. I'm not. Most of our politicians that are in office right now are very pro-Israel Zionist. I think that we should be pro-America. Period. Whatever your opinion is, I have a Rumble video. You can see my opinion. But Pam Bondi in office has been great as well. She actually said in an interview today that the Epstein and Diddy lists are on her desk right now. And this brings up a topic I want to cover with everyone. Pam Bondi has the lists. She has them right now. Congresswoman Luna and a whole slew of young politicians, they have the entire declassified documents on RFK, JFK, MLK, 9/11, everything is prepared and ready to go and distribute to the public. But we need committees, and we need to stop telling us you have something. Just disclose it. Just put it out there. We're approaching the world of AI. We're currently in the digital model. It literally takes 1 second to click a button and publish it on a website. Publish it. We are going to see, in my opinion, we're going to see a very, very redacted point of view. I hope we get the complete lists and complete files of all these things, but historically that's not going to happen. Hope it does. But I will give you a breakdown of some DC insiders that I've spoken with. I asked the question, why do we need a committee to declassify files? And the response I got from one of my friends is that, well, here's how DC works. They create the committee for declass, and they make a bunch of phone calls to donors, and they raise a bunch of money. And these people pay a lot of money to them, to their campaigns, to their political party, to whoever, and then they'll release some of it. So if you think DC is cleaned up right now, it absolutely is not. I believe in 4 years it will be completely cleaned out, but right now we're still living in the old reality with a new twist. So we have committees that are holding back declassification. We have our Attorney General has the Epstein list on her desk. She said it this morning. Push a button, Pam. Release it. Let the world see. Don't redact it. Do not remove a single name from that list. If you remove a single name or black out a single name, we should not trust you in your position at all. If there are names that need to be redacted, that's your decision. The American people need to know exactly who was on those planes, who spent time on those islands, who was at the Diddy parties, who killed JFK, who killed MLK, who did 9/11. We deserve to know these things. And the longer they drag it out, of course, the anticipation will build. That's a great movie. You'll have anticipation. And then all of a sudden you get it released. I think we'll get it released redacted. We're going to have to complain. And then they'll give us the unredacted version after they've raised another $200 million for the Republican or Democrat Party behind closed doors. That's how things work. Like just to be honest with you, that's how they work. Can Trump change that? He is changing that. That is happening, but it will not change overnight. DC is going to be DC. It's still a swamp, and they're still going to have to clean it up. And most of these people have checkered backgrounds. So we'll see what happens, right? Like it's always been my motto, stay calm, stay level, see what happens next. And I'm very excited about it. But I'm also raring to go. It's been years and years. We know who's on those lists, and the people who've been following me a long time. We have a very good idea who's on those lists. And the world needs to know, because these are very powerful people who control large swaths of land, huge positions of power, and about 35% of the money in this country. We need their names. We need justice. They need to face justice and tell the truth and end all of this horrific practice of sex crimes and child trafficking and all these horrible things. This is the biggest problem in the world. You can talk about finances. You can talk about government. You can talk about politics. You could do all that all day long. But we're not protecting the weakest people in this country, our children. Our children are being sexualized. Our children are being stolen. Our children are being raped. And the people who are doing it have not faced a moment of judgment. Not one. Pam Bondi, release the list, unredacted, immediately. Please. 6,000 IRS agents are being fired today. That is the best news you'll ever hear, because that's 6,000 less people who can steal your money. The CIA is about to face the largest defunding and firing since the 1970s. That place needs to be vaporized and completely rebuilt, because the CIA, who's supposed to be involved in foreign intelligence, has been operating on our soil, controlling our media, our content, our movies, our music, our film, for a very long time. So I hope that they get cleaned out. They've already fired the heads of diversity training at the intelligence agencies, specifically the CIA. And it makes perfect sense to me that in the middle of the largest crypto heist, let's look at today, let's rewind today. The largest crypto heist in history, almost $1 trillion is lost in the stock market. Donald Trump takes control of the agencies. Haitians are now facing their judgment. The CEO of Pfizer was booed. Kash Patel was put in play. Field agents at the FBI actually have to do their job. We have the Epstein list. We have the Diddy list. We're ready to prepare. And what happens? A whole new coronavirus is discovered in China. A whole new one that actually will work like COVID-19, but it'll go from body to animal to human even faster. So we're watching a repeat of 2020 as we approach D-Class. We've been expecting this for a very long time. This is Psychological Operation 101, Fifth Generation Warfare 101. When big stuff happens and big stuff's coming out, you got to have a new scare tactic. So you're going to hear a lot about this new coronavirus out of China, again, coming from China. And we're supposed to be terrified of it and hiding under masks and staying 6 feet apart. They're trying to impose that again. It's not going to work. I don't even need to tell, if you're watching this show, I don't need to tell you don't wear a mask. You're going to die, okay? That is the harsh reality of life. The idea of death and taxes, that's a new idea, guys. They didn't always say that. This isn't like a 10,000 year. There weren't taxes in many parts of the world for most of. There are no federal income taxes in multiple countries throughout this world right now. The only guarantee in life is you'll be born and you'll die. And if you die scared, afraid, and under a mask, 6 feet apart, living in your room by yourself, you're not really living. So if this is a real disease, which it very well may be, because corona was probably a very good test run to see how we would comply. I knew that from the very beginning. This is a test. Will we be slaves and just listen to what we're told, or will we live as sovereign free people? I don't need to tell you, don't comply. You're going to die. If it's a real thing, you're going to get sick anyway, whether you stay in your house or you don't. Live your life. Enjoy your life. Live through the difficulties. Learn to love your family. Excuse me. Praise God. Be happy for the things that you have. Don't be worrisome about the things you don't. Stay calm, stay level, see what happens next. What we're seeing right now is a 35% increase in people purchasing the Bible. We are watching prayer groups develop all throughout my town, all throughout this state, all throughout the world. We are watching non-believers come to belief. We are watching people who lived in atheistic societies and atheistic communities that are just reaching out for something better. These are the times of the strongest. You know, there's that old saying that strong men create good times create weak men create bad times. Weak men have created bad times. It is time for strong men to stand up, strong families, strong women, strong children to stand up and understand that we are sovereign people. We have sovereignty granted by God. We do not need the government's permission to do anything in our life. We certainly need laws to see what we can and can't do, but we don't need their permission to live our life. So if we do have a dangerous disease that is on the way to America from China again, stand firm in your beliefs, stand firm in your convictions, stand firm in your faith, and continue to move forward. The moment we came out of our mother's womb, we were in enemy territory. This is the entire byproduct of earth. There's heaven, there's hell, and there's earth right in the middle. And what we live in as human, God's creations, God's most beloved creation. We live in a world where the demons taunt the humans to hurt ourselves and hurt each other in order to inflict pain on God. That is done through sadness, murder, rape, violence, all these other things. The sadder you become, the more pleasing it is to the devil, who is happy that God knows you no longer have joy that's provided from him. These are the times of excitement. We are starting to get actual disclosure. We are actually starting to see transparency be developed. We are seeing fraud and distrust being uprooted from the stem. These are the most exciting times in America. Expect the enemy to try to rain on your parade. Expect it to come. Understand it's coming. It might be someone on social media calling you a bad name. It might be a coronavirus out of China. It might be whatever it is. Find your joy, walk with God, continue to move forward, and worry about nothing. Nothing at all. You will get through whatever is to come perfectly, exactly as God planned. Your family will thrive based on your strength. Be strong for them. This is the chance we have. Like getting through this period of time, you have to really learn to constrain your excitement and weather it with reality. And that's what I've tried to do. Yes, I think the IRS is going to go away. Will it happen tomorrow? It can't. It literally cannot. It has to go through Congress. Will they approve it? Probably. With enough pressure from the American people, top politicians will do anything. Dry up their money. Remove their money. Stop donating to any politician. Doesn't matter who they are. Stop donating. Get them to bend at the knee of the American people. We are the ones in charge of this country, not the government. They work for us. We need to audit them. They need to be held accountable because they never have. It's never happened in any of our lifetime. That's happening now. The beginning stages of that is happening right now. So I would expect over the next year or so that we will find a million. We've already had 2 of them this week. A new coronavirus today, Diddy list coronavirus. Doge findings, asteroid. There's a whole new asteroid coming from outer space that is going to destroy 1/3 of the world in 2030. They're going to make up stuff like nonstop, and some of the stuff will be real. There's going to be some real scary stuff. Stand strong. stand in your faith, stand right next to the people you love, and make sure that you are taking care of your family and praising God, because that's what's going to get you through it. And if you get through this, I've always said this from the beginning, we are going to have to walk through hell, but we will end up in heaven. And hell approaches as heaven beckons. As heaven calls our name, we have to walk through that thorny field of hell and go through pain to truly feel what abundance and love are like. And we're going to get there no matter what. There's not a politician in the world that can stop this right now. They're going to try their darndest. Stand strong in it, work your butt off, save your money, do the right things, manage everything that you can possibly manage in your world, and vocally speak out about the things that you disagree with. You know, there's a big trend right now. Oh, if you speak against Donald Trump, you're a black pillar. Donald Trump's a politician. He's the president of this country. He deserves criticism for things that happen. He will earn it, right? Like, he will earn it. And he will stand in front of you, and from what I've seen, he will listen to the American people, and he will do as the American people will. But he lives in two worlds, trying to serve us and manage the chaos and corruption and the swamp of DC, which we saw in his last term is pretty strong. I think a lot of those powers have been removed by now. I try to keep things on this show middle ground. I'm not trying to prove how smart I am to the conspiracy theorist or dumb things up for those who are just awakening. I try to be somewhere in the middle. A lot of things have been handled behind the scenes. A lot of things are going, there's just psyops everywhere. They're going to continue. The devil loves to counterfeit and confuse and deceive. And the devil is still very much alive, and God is still very much in charge. So just rest in that fact and handle the things you can handle. Manage the things in your life. Make sure your life is going smoothly, because it's going to get rocky in this country, and eventually it's going to be amazing. So that's what I've got for you here on a Friday. I know it's a lot to digest. This is my second run at it, so an hour and 40 minutes. I still haven't eaten at 7:49 p.m. I am starving. I'm going to go downstairs and have some dinner. It has been so nice chatting with you all here today. I hope this information helps you along the way. I hope this gives you good talking points with other people. But most importantly, I'm just going to reiterate my saying is stay calm, stay level, see what happens next. And until next time, I'm Eric Rice. This is the Rice Report. God bless you. God bless this country. Everything's going to be fine. Just get a lot of strength together, stand together. We'll get through it all. I'll see you guys again next week, a couple times on my calendar here. So hoping to film. I have interviews on Monday, but I'm hoping to do a live on Wednesday and Thursday and potentially Monday. So as things happen, if things are important, I'll fire this thing up. Hopefully my mic will work the next time, and we'll see you guys. So